Then Inauguration Day happened. Actually, in fact, fast forward, the January 6th.
Yeah, January 6th, big
on
event.
January, big event. I was in Washington, D.C. Caroline was in Washington. She'll tell you what she was doing there. Caroline is a speaker and a leader of many, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I was there in Washington, D.C., and when what happened in Washington, D.C., we did another pivot. So after election, we started getting information about the voter irregularity. After January 6th, as you remember, Parler was deplatformed. And here's the thing, Gimki, here's what I want to share. We in America began to censor and attack regular people just because of what they said out of their mouth. This to me was so hurtful because I was born in Ethiopia. We had this problem happen there, government censorship. Then I went to Zambia, it happened there. Then I went to Zimbabwe, it happened there. Now I'm here in America, and this is happening in this country that I love so much that I brought my family here. So I was very, very angry, upset when censorship happened. So at that time, we created this idea called Defend Florida. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's kind of the evolution of how we got here and how we're talking with you. But Caroline's story is also, please, I'd love for her to share with you what she's been doing since that day. Can she do that?
Yeah, sure. Caroline, please go ahead.
So I organized a group of women and men to go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I was invited to speak on January 5th at a prayer rally at the Supreme Court. So I spoke at the Supreme Court, and then my group came in the next day. We went to the Trump rally that happened before people marched down to the Capitol. And it was very cold that day, so people were, trying to get warm before they went to the Capitol. So we didn't get to the Capitol till almost 2 or 2:30. The break-in, if you will, that happened at the Capitol happened much before that. In fact, it happened before Trump even finished speaking. So the core of his group weren't even at the Capitol when the people breached the Capitol grounds. We saw with our own eyes, there were people there who were not Trump supporters. They were members of Black Lives Matter or Antifa who enraged the crowd, who fought with the police, who broke in. And so it was a staged and organized event to smear the Trump supporters. And it was very effective. And so it's quite hypocrisy. There's so much hypocrisy in this. The legislators who were at the Capitol that day were so enraged that someone broke into the Capitol and risked their lives, but they were not enraged last summer when Black Lives Matter and Antifa burnt cities down, murdered people,
they did.
And destroyed their businesses. There was no outrage then. There was no call for an Insurrection Act or anything like that then. But when a few people, and it was a very few people compared to the number of people that were in Washington that day that broke into the Capitol, and most of the people who went in just walked around. They didn't damage anything. There were some windows broken. It was high school vandalism stuff. It was not, the only person who was murdered that day was one of the Trump supporters who crawled through a window at the pushing and the inspiration of some of these Antifa people. The other officers, if you look into it, that died of, heart attack and other causes. It's kind of like the COVID thing. People die of something and they call it COVID. But anyway, moving on. So the two groups that went in the buses, my supporters, some of them now have been harassed by the FBI for being in Washington that day. They've gotten calls, and so it doesn't end. Anyway, after that happened, we came back. And everybody was afraid. We have supporters in South Florida who are of the Latin community, Cuban immigrants, Venezuelan immigrants, and they're being censored. We've never seen the kind of censorship we're seeing right now. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, is is a group that licenses you to be on the radio or the television in the United States. The conservative radio stations in South Florida, the Spanish-speaking radio stations, have been told if they speak poorly of Biden or they talk about election fraud or voter fraud, they will lose their FCC license. and be taken off the air. So
wow, it's like socialist country.
It's like a socialist.
It's not like America.
It is not America. So I had a friend who was a former pastor at my church who called me shortly after the 6th happened, and everybody was calling, asking, "What do we do now? Is the military going to come save us?" There were a lot of rumors going around, and I honestly didn't know any answers. And he introduced me to Raj, and he came over one evening, and we talked about where we go from here. And Raj introduced the idea of Defend Florida to me. And I adopted it, and I brought my whole workforce of the Women for Trump movement to bear on this movement of Defend Florida. And we'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. But it's been very successful, and it's energized people who are angry. We're taking anger, and we're turning it into action and advocacy. And action and advocacy give people a vehicle to do something with that anger. And that's what we need to do now.
Transmitting the negative energy to the positive energy, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
You did. It's a great job.
I'd like to add something to what Caroline said. This topic you brought up, it's so important because what I am finding, Gimki, is the reality is much of the work to bring freedom and push back on this communistic, tyrannical, illegal, unconstitutional work. Much of that work, Gimki, here in the United States is being fueled, led, and driven by competent women. These are women that care about the cause and are willing to do the work. I also want to add, Gimki, that I didn't realize this, but President Trump did more to combat and fight against human trafficking than the last 4 presidents combined. This is a remarkable feat, obviously not reported, but as you know, human trafficking, and I don't know if you know, but Florida, where we are now, and the Central Florida in particular, is a huge capital for the scourge called human trafficking. And with President Trump's firm, decisive leadership, he took action to bring those people to justice. So when you talk about women and the role of women both now and in the future to regain the freedom and liberties for this country, I don't know how it is in Japan, but here in the United States, women are leading the fight. And it's time for you, if you're watching this in America and you're a man, you need to step up. You know, get out, get to action, step up. So I want to just add that, Gimki, to what Caroline said.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
The last thing I'd like to ask you to do is please continue to believe that we will be victorious.
And pray.
And pray.
And pray.
And expect victory. You just heard Gimki say earlier that he wants to inspire people because he's already inspiring. He wants to equip people. He wants to encourage people. To what end? Well, the end he just shared with you is so that freedom, GU, can be prevalent and present in America, in Japan, and you know what? In China. Because the people in China are suffering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so they horrible
situation.
They need to have GU. So somehow the collaboration and the spirit between you in Japan, us here in America, that is how we will get this. That is how we'll get this done. So thank you for watching this show. Thank you for supporting Gimki's channel. Caroline, what do you want to say?
I would like to say thank you, and I would like to say we will pray for the Japanese people and the Chinese people, and please pray for us, the freedom-loving people in this country, to unite, because we've had a failure to unify, and we need to unify now as freedom-loving Americans to take our country back. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Let me tell you in the very end, it's preaching freedom to freedom-loving people. It sounds nonsense, but truly, America is the beacon of hope for freedom-loving people all over the world. You know, American politicians say these words sometimes, but it's really real. The champion of freedom is beaten by the socialists. It's a tragedy for the entire free world. You understand? If the champion is defeated, what can I do? You know, always fighting against communism and socialism. Mainstay is the United States of America. You know, so the U.S. always gives the energy and inspiration to other people, the people of other countries fighting for freedom. Yeah, that is reality. So you carry the very important, heavy responsibility, and we want your movement. We want your victory for our national interest.
Yes.
yeah, sure. Yeah. So please remember that. So please tell your guys, your friends, your colleagues that you are that important. You are fighting that kind of important fight. This is your historical kind of mission. Please have the sense of mission. Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Please be proud. Yeah. You cannot be more proud. Yeah. You can be proud for the fighter for freedom. Please. Yeah.
Thank you.
Carry this message to your colleagues, to your fellows, please.
We will.
We will.
Thank you.